Okay, Pamela, Eve, and then Ella, and Casey. Hello? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. This is the first time I'm using Hangout Air, so this will be cool.
Yeah, I see the live.
That's cool.
We're broadcasting.
We're broadcasting live.
Hello, interwebs.
Thanks, Pamela.
You're welcome.
Waiting on Eve. Nice.
Yeah, so people can actually tune in.
They actually can. That's pretty cool.
Frightening.
I know, right?
What do I say?
I always felt bad when it was for our book club because it was just for Ruby languages. Like, this is the book actually we were reading. And I'm like, man, people are going to be so bored if they tune in. We're like, so what did you all think about this chapter?
I know. So what did you get? Did you get an email through a Gmail?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
it kind of depends on if I had the Hangouts app running on my machine, which I tend to find it more annoying than helpful. It would have popped up kind of like an instant message, but if you don't, it just sends you an email.
Okay. I hope Eve was okay. Let me see. Oh, I actually gotta invite Anna too.
And just a quick for your information, my husband's going to be getting home at some point soon, and my dog is going to freak out. So I'll try to mute it when he starts barking. It's a lost cause when he comes in the door. It's just going to be noisy.
Okay.
Just give us the cue, and we will just.
I'm pretty quick on the mute button, but you know, just in case I'm not, that's what's going on. No one's getting mauled in my house.
Now I'm excited to see it happen.
So let me see. Where's the link to this particular Hangout? Is it the same to find?
It's probably tied to the actual event.
Okay.
Where is that?
Let me get it. Okay.
Oh, I'm not seeing it tied to the event anymore. Or maybe there's that Hangout. Could be that Hangout.
Yeah, I received an email under. Whoa, hello. That happened way too soon.
Hold on, let me see if I can post it. Matt is here, so he's pinging to see if, let me see if I at that particular event. Eve is not here yet. Can you, let me try to.
Oh.
I'm going to drop the link into that event. Maybe she just missed it.
Okay. Let me invite Matt.
And is Samya going to be joining us, or is this going to be without the student?
You know, I sent her the link as well. But another thing is she is in India. So not sure. What time is it? It's 3. Yeah, it's 3 a.m. her time. So we'll have to.
Exactly 12-hour difference from us.
I think it's 13.
Okay.
I think it's like 13.
That might be tricky for me to mentor her, but we'll see what happens. We can do email.
Yeah.
I had a teammate that traveled to India for 2 weeks or so, and he was working for part of it, and we had a little bit of overlap every day where he was about to go to bed and I was just getting started for the day. So maybe I can do that with her.
That's why I think it's like 13.
That might be tricky for me to mentor her, but we'll see what happens. We can do email.
Yeah.
Hey,
Matthew?
I had a teammate that traveled 2 weeks or so, and he was working for part of it, and we had a little bit of overlap every day where he was about to go to bed and I was just getting started for the day. So maybe I can do that with her.
How does that happen?
Can you guys hear me?
I don't know.
This is kind of.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Matthew has joined us from Part 4. And Matthew, I have Sarah on.
What is that? It's kind of like.
So I had to mute you guys. Can you still hear me? Just shake your head yes, you can still hear me. Okay. So it's coming through a roundabout way. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So I'll just unmute you guys when we get to you. But Matthew, I have Sarah on chat, IRC chat, and let me see if I can put it in this area too. So if you go to web chat. If you go to that site, and the channel is actually Peace Corps. I created that channel, and then just put whatever username whatever you want to put in, and that'll be easier enough. She's already there. She could not. The internet is just really bad where she is, and so we'll just have to make do for what we have for right now. Okay. So I am going to unmute Matt and then Pamela and then Allah, and I'll check on, and one at a time, if you could just introduce yourselves, and I'll check on Eve to see. I clicked on the invitation and I can't stream the video. Okay, Eve is having problems, so I'll go ahead and check on her. Matthew, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. So my name is Matthew McAllister. I work at Peace Corps. I'm in the Office of Innovation with Patrick Choquette, who's the director of the Office of Innovation, and he met Rose, I believe, at a hackathon or National Day of Civic Hacking about a year ago, and that's when our office has been teamed up with the Sisters and with the Anita Borg Institute. So we're very excited to be a part of the Google Summer of Code. And I am here to help in any way that I can and facilitate and make Rose's life as easy as possible.
And I do appreciate that. And Matt has been on probably just about a little over a month now, and he's gotten a lot of stuff done. So I'm really, really thankful he's on board. Thanks, Matt.
Hey,
Matthew, sorry. And Pamela, can you go ahead and introduce yourself? I just went ahead and re-invited Eve. She's having a little problem. But go ahead, Pamela, and introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Pamela Vickers. I work at Big Nerd Ranch, and I know Rose through just some general programming, mostly women in programming events around Atlanta. I kind of organize a chapter of Rails Girls, so Rails is my language of choice, and I've gone to a couple Sisters meetups that Rose has put together, so I'm just excited to mentor and help as much as possible. I'm vaguely aware of, I think, when this original project was conceived at was it Random Hacks of Kindness or the government hackathon?
Yes, so, it was both, yeah.
Cool. So, and I've always thought it would be cool to hop in on one of the Peace Corps projects that people seem to work on in Atlanta, so I'm happy to be involved in some capacity.
Thank you. Allah?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ala Diab. I design educational games and user experiences. I'm also the co-founder of a cool design collective that is a nonprofit working on innovating in community and with community around educational games and educational applications. Our organization is called Freedom Games. I've also returned recently from a one-week workshop in Australia working with Aboriginal language communities there on developing apps and games to promote and preserve their various languages. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Allah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute you all, and then if you're not speaking, if you can just mute yourself, so that way I can focus more on the controls here. I'm still waiting on Eve, so hopefully we'll get her logged in really quick. Also, I am actually with Sarah on IRC. The channel again is Peace Corps. So if you want to go ahead and try to log in there, and we'll keep going here just so we have just so we'll have both. She couldn't log in, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about from a project perspective. I'm going to go ahead. I'm Rose Robinson, her Sisters Keeper, but also Google Summer of Code organizational admin for Sisters this year, and we have several Peace Corps projects that we're working on, and one of those is the language translation. And as this actually project came out of the Random Hack of Kindness National Civic Hack Day from last year, and I work with Sarah Morse. She's a volunteer that is it stationed, Matthew, or are they stationed or assigned to Micronesia community? And I'm still learning the Peace Corps terminology, so please excuse me. And what happened is the problem that is happening is that the Chuukese people do not have a written language. So what is Sarah's challenge to do is actually show an object to someone, have a English version or text for that, as well as probably do a Chuukese phonetic addition to that. So if you can imagine not having a written language, but just learning verbally what things mean and how that translation is in Chuukese, that's pretty challenging. So the actual Chuukese project was actually, she wanted to upload a photo. She wants a web application to actually upload a photo. With that photo, you actually will have a place where you can enter in the English text as well as the Chuukese phonetic, if that makes sense. Addition to that. So if you can imagine not having a written language, but just learning verbally.
Oh, Eve, can you mute your microphone?
Okay, yeah. Hi, Eve, you were there.
Hi. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. What I've asked people to do is actually mute yourself, so that I don't have to mute you if you're not speaking. But I want you to go ahead and actually introduce yourself to the team before we get any further.
Sure. My name is Eve Tolbert, and I'm co-founder at Freedom Games, which I heard a lot describing on the live stream before I figured out how to get in. My background is in literacy and language program development. I've worked in a lot of youth and family literacy center settings, and I also have a master's in linguistic anthropology, and through that have worked in child development research, looking at the issues around bilingual education. and looking at bilingual literacy and language development in both school and home settings. So I'm really excited to get to bring that kind of user experience side into the group.
Thank you, Eve. I appreciate it. And that's another thing too, is because I believe Sarah works with a lot of school children. So she actually is wanting a web application to upload a photo, and with that photo wanting to enter in English text, so that is the actual translation, but also do some phonetic entering for the Chuukese, in the Chuukese language. Now, like I said, there's really no written language, so this is being done from scratch, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't know if they have any text or lettering, and that's why I was really hoping that she would be able to join us, so that she can actually give us like some scenarios from what she's challenged with. Additionally, the reason why she's not here is because internet access. So the number one thing is to have this web application be functional offline, and then actually when she does have internet access, to be able to update automatically any new content that was added or edited at the time. So those are challenging pieces. We can actually, I think the gist of the project is really creating that workflow that what she needs. But the reason I wanted Matthew also to attend is because we have so many Peace Corps projects that we're working on. We definitely want some synergy across the board to in the way the web application behaves, the design, the look and feel, so kind of, you know, in sync with everything else. So it's going to be challenging because of our student is in India, but at the same time, I think it's very doable, and you know, we're part of a global team anyway. It's the nature of our technology and how we implement projects. So challenge is good, at least I think so. And I do have Sarah on IRC. The chat room is Peace Corps, hashtag Peace Corps. So if you want to join, please do. I've also included the repo that's on GitHub. There is a requirements document that I will actually pass along to Sarah as well. And as well, if you can take a look at that or download that, and that's where I'll actually get started with some of the high-level requirements, if we could go over that right now. I'm going to share my screen so that we can actually see that. But I wanted to kind of just make sure with you first that that's cool to do. Let me bring my up and then share the screen, and then we'll be good to go.
Not to change any of the requirements, like right before we start, but I have a question about the uploading of a photo. If internet is sparse, I imagine upload speeds are going to be pretty terrible. Do you think that it might be better to... I'm trying to think of what a good alternate would be. Is the idea that we're going to be finding, or they're going to be finding items that aren't necessarily going to be common elsewhere, where it's going to be specific to their region, and that's why we're going to need to take a photo of it? Or would it just be something that could be considered like basket, which you could probably find a photo of a basket? Is it so it's very recognizable to them that we need to be able to take a photo on site?
I would say both. Here's when we had an interview, when I was actually working on this, I had an interview with Sarah, and their job is really just to really engage with the community. And right now, you know, if they don't know Chuukese, and the Chuukese people don't know English, and Matthew, you please chime in here as well. It's hard for them to kind of communicate. So yes, if they were there and they are trying to understand basket, like the example that you had, then they would definitely want to take that photo. And they're building this dictionary. It was actually called a picture dictionary. So they're building all of these small little photos of these dictionary, and that's how they're actually learning and building the language, if you will. So I know that you're talking, and I think you're talking about, okay, taking a photo and then from their mobile device, and then actually it'll upload to the application. We haven't gotten that far yet, and neither have they, because they are very spotty where they are. They don't always have internet access. So they're talking about maybe taking a photo on their phone and then being plugged up to this web application and uploading the photo that way. At the same time, that is something to consider as the future, because we want something to work online and offline, right? And maybe that mobile piece is in a future enhancement that we can talk about. But we have to know that so that we can design it and develop it. Our approach is correct. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I guess I'm already trying to think of implementation details, and I probably need a better overall feel, but that's just where my mind goes. I can't help it.
I know. And that's where, maybe that's where Ala and Eve can come in. I mean, they've already done some design work, so I'm so glad that they're actually on this team as well. I mean, how do you approach it from just minority language, and now and having to understand that these are brand new texts or whatever whatever the terminology is. How do you develop languages when there's no existed?
Okay, well, I just typed in a comment, so I'll go ahead and explain that because it was a little jargony.
Okay.
When we talk about sort of the natural categories that languages use, languages can weigh really differently on the side of being more focused on kind of the verb-like aspects of what's happening, or naming kind of action patterns, trajectories, forms of movement, social features like who, what, and what way, versus when we think about a picture dictionary, we might be thinking about nouns, or the class of words that we call nouns, and sort of morphemes of meaning. But a lot of languages segment those things really differently than how we think about that in the English categorization scheme. So if we're wanting to design something that's actually scalable to a lot of minority language communities, it might be helpful to have some more target languages in mind whose grammar we could study a little bit and try to understand some design problems through the lens of a few different languages. I don't know Micronesian languages well at all, but I do know some Samoan linguists that we could ask some questions to. And I know someone who speaks Yap. But I think it would, I just looked up Chuukese, it would be really good to have a sense of the grammar, but also to understand that when someone sees a picture, their first inclination might be to name a lot of different things in that picture, and experientially, sort of what the object is in the center of the picture might not be people's first frame of reference for what the word is. Does that make sense? So,
yeah, that makes sense. I understand that completely.
So if we have a system where people are uploading photographs, those photographs might contain a lot of different kinds of potential language data or language kind of affiliation. Not just a single morpheme, but maybe a whole phrase that describes the action. If there are people in the photograph, they might suggest a lot of different social categories. A lot of languages have social categories that are much more complex than what we use in English. Older people, younger people, relatives and kinship groups. So it's a little bit thorny of a problem to think about how to make a one-to-one correspondence between one morpheme and one picture. I think most users could get into it as they play around with it a little bit more, but it might be helpful to have some sample pictures that are very closely tied to one object. I don't know, it's a really interesting question.
You know, when...
Like,
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go then. It sounds like it might be good to, as Eve said, start with some very isolated photos, maybe provided by people that are on the ground there that have seen these items, and maybe even just like a white background where there's very little distraction to start with, and that would get some things rolling. And then I was thinking, as Eve was talking, that if we don't understand exactly what the meaning behind a picture is going to be, we almost might have to allow multiple avenues for the same photo. Like I'm thinking in terms of like, you know, how you can tag a blog post where you're like, well, I think this is a noun, but it also might be something that describes a process or an action. So it might be something that we have to consider having multiple descriptions for the same photo that gets refined more as things become more clear as the structure of the language. But I mean, that's complicated. So we're talking about really something.
Yeah, grammar is really complex.
Well, here's the thing. When that's both of you all are right along the lines of what we did at the very end of that hackathon, is because we actually needed to break up the photos or categorize them in categories. So that was one of the things that is going to be a feature of that. And maybe it's not so complex. So we only have 12 weeks, and maybe the first release is really just simple uploading a photo and then categorizing it. Maybe it's like for buildings or for I don't know, for government things, or, you know, like if you take a picture of a city hall or something, or the mayor or people, there's a category for people and things like that, you know, those are important. So definitely we definitely need to get those type of requirements and those type of photos that from Sarah I think would be really cool to do. Soumya, are you there?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I think I have Soumya now. I just want to try to see if she's available. Soumya, are you there? She joined the group chat, but she's not online. Okay, go ahead, Eve. What were you going to say, and I'll just chat with her on here.
Do you happen to know anything about the social organization of the community? Like, are there indigenous categories for leadership or for?
Yes, and those maybe we can categorize that as well. You know, so that's what I'm thinking for this 12 weeks is that we do very simplistic approach, uploading, categorizing the photos, and then the actual text, and those are things we probably want to try to get from Sarah as well. I think she does have. But I'll send you later today. Should be in place. Okay, later today she's going to have a faster internet, and I'll let her know that we've actually recorded this. We're broadcasting live, so she can see it later on. But I think we just take the simple approach for this one, and then we can build on that. You know, this is something that we definitely want to make available for all of the probably all the other communities as well, where the Peace Corps volunteers can find this useful, because I'm sure it's not just Micronesia, but there's other maybe indigenous people or Peace Corps volunteers are assigned to communities. I mean, what do you think, Matthew? I think that was the whole goal behind you know, having this as a major project, because we definitely want to have in the future enhancement to be able to sign on, maybe have a sign on based on your location, maybe based on your assignment.
Yeah, I know the approach that our office, the Office of Innovation here takes is, you know, we want to see this as agile and iterative, because we found that that's how we get a lot of momentum behind new ideas, especially ideas that maybe less tech savvy, you know, decision makers within the agency can like grasp and see. And so, yeah, Rose, I appreciate your comments of like, if we just start even at a level of like, let's identify buildings or fruit or, you know, something that is, you know, a small portion of the overall goal of this project, and be able to deliver that to volunteers and get feedback and testing, and then also be able to have like a demo of that here at headquarters is going to really build up a lot more momentum behind these things than waiting until the end of a 2-month coding sprint, for instance. So as much as we can do like iterative and that kind of stuff, it'll build momentum, and it would allow us to take it to to kind of the point that was being made earlier, additional languages or communities, which I think people will want and they'll ask for. And our goal is always to present something and then make someone kind of like ask for more, rather than saying, oh yeah, we can do all of it at once, because everyone's just going to roll their eyes and be like, no, you can't, and also we're not interested. But if you do it for a really small subset and you do it really well, then everyone's like, oh, we totally want that. So it'd be awesome to get to the small subset that everyone really, really wants and is willing to keep pushing for. So that's kind of my take on what you were saying.
And that's another thing also, when we do our unit testing, Pamela and Eve and Allah, is that we actually want to utilize our community. Yes, we have students and mentors, but Matthew is here. He can definitely get some feedback from those out in the field so that we can actually get some real feedback from the users. So we definitely want to utilize that as well. So when we come to a point where we want to test a particular feature or something like that, definitely we want to post that out and push it out and see what kind of feedback we're on, so that we make sure that we're developing it and on the right track.
I actually would like to hear your initial thoughts around overriding the obstacle of internet connectivity, or the lack thereof in the community. And the other question is, how is the information being gathered? My understanding that this is on some level a crowd-sourced picture dictionary construction kit. And so the way it actually gets introduced and deployed in a community makes a huge difference, both in their kind of interaction with the tech itself, but also the way the way you gather and the quality of the output or the outcome or the kind of the digital debris that you collect.
Yeah, I agree. We had some initial talks in the community, and if I'll put the link up here to actually let you guys know exactly where you can join Sisters Dev. But we had some initial talks about that. What we were thinking is that at least we can have some caching done, right? If in fact this is possible, and this is going to be a technical challenge also for you, Pamela, and Sylvain as well. So we were thinking about doing some caching of the application itself. Now, at some point, all of the uploads that that you actually do locally will eventually go online when that access is there. That's what we actually want. We talked about there's a lot of technology that we can use on the back end, but I think what we wanted to do is try some caching first for the application. Now, what does caching mean? It really is the same scenario that if you go to a website now online, it actually stores a lot of those photos or videos that they have online onto your local, so that you can, so we'll definitely have to have that feature or functionality in there. And then when they're actually loading, they're working off of their line. If you think about Outlook, Outlook, when you're doing your email.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually continue working online. As soon as the internet is available, then it just automatically updates, and that's what I'm thinking from a functional standpoint. Now, I'll have to work with Pamela and Sylvain on how that approach and what we can do. It's a lot of research, but I think it can be done. I think it's done in the past. We don't have to recreate or create something that has already been done. So I think we can. I think there's probably some modules in Ruby on Rails that we can probably use. I haven't done the research for it, but that's what I'm.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to also draw your attention to a case study that I've seen when I was in Australia. There was a project by the name of Ikuma, AIKUMA, and it was deployed in a remote village somewhere in, my understanding it was Brazil, but I could be wrong, because they know the kind of the size of the community that we're working with. They ended up buying lots of cheap Android phones to record audio archival, and they had actually a local network set up. They used the thumb drive as the storage medium, and they had the client on the Android phones be the server, sort of. I mean, they kind of, the file gets loaded to the stick, and then it gets synced, so all the phones have the same repository. And they used like car batteries to power the whole thing, and they had a Wi-Fi sort of grid to have the entire village actually connected. So there could be like a software hardware combination that is very low tech, very sort of graceful and appropriate sort of to the situation. Yeah. I could let me post the link to the app.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, there it is. I think you've posted.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Double team. Double time.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, Soumya, are you on video? She's still not on video. She joined the group chat, but at least she can view it later. So we'll keep going. So I think those type of research that we'll do. So right now we're in the bonding period. We don't actually start coding. The students don't actually start coding until May 21st. And I'm actually in the process of getting our servers or a development environment intact and ready to go. What we'll do is for Ruby on Rails, Pamela will actually just have a VM so that the students can, all of us really, can download and do our local stuff and test around and will not harm the code at all. And then we'll probably do another session on GitHub and version control of the coding a little bit later, probably in the next week or two. I'll do that as a group. And we could do another broadcast as well. I like this feature. I just have to make sure my hair is together before we do that and stuff. So,
one technical note really quick. I think that EngineYard had something where it was really easy to configure a Rails environment to a VM. So I don't know if you've gone through much of that setup yet, but that's something to investigate as a possibility. Okay, and Matthew, I don't know if you know of EngineYard. It's like Heroku as well. And Matthew is actually, we're doing all this on Systers environment, development environment, but when we actually push it to production, it will be housed somewhere at Peace Corps server somewhere. So these information we really need to map out and help them Peace Corps, because we're actually helping them as well. So they have a lot on their plate. So any information that we can provide with them. The one thing I really want to say is, you talk about audio. That was actually the tail end of our, I would say our, one of the features that we talked about. It would be great in the future, not now, but think about this as we're designing, but it would be great to record an audio and upload the audio and the photo for that because of the language, right? You want proper pronunciation goes along with that, and to actually have that type of support, the audio support would be awesome for the web application as well. So this is something that we can build on, but again, our first initial release we definitely want to take a simplistic approach.
I have a few thoughts about that.
Okay.
Is that okay? So, working in remote communities and language preservation, there's a lot more linguistic variation. Okay, I'm gonna geek out for like 1 minute and talk about orthography and language standardization. The Western European languages went through a really rapid period of language standardization during the nation-building exercises of the 17th and 18th centuries. And before that, there wasn't really strong standard orthographies for English, French, German, and there was actually quite a bit of language variation and pronunciation variation. And so the first historical linguists actually did a lot of work of just documenting the extreme variation in clines. So they were like what we think of ecological clines, like species variation. Like the Grimm's brothers were actually really involved with documenting German language variation. So it's actually a really hard exercise sometimes to figure out what's the boundary of a speech community and what is the standardization within that speech community. You can have languages that have, like at 4 different mountain peaks, they're all very different variants, and the 2 mountain peaks at either end can't understand each other, but the people in the middle can understand the ones at the ends. So it's there's a lot more regional variation in native languages than we usually think of in the standard languages that we use and speak and write in. I can think more about this and what this means in terms of a design problem and how to engage users in naming the speech community that they feel is relatively standard. But if we're using mostly input data that's written, we're definitely going to have to really think through orthography problems. If we're thinking of applying to communities that don't have standard orthographies. If there has been a lot of missionary contact, there's often a standard orthography, but I don't know the situation of Chuukese, and I know that there are also a lot of small indigenous languages communities where there are multiple competing versions of the orthography that were written at different points of time. So I know that's adding a lot of complexity to the problem, but if we want it to be something deployed in multiple areas, it's good to just think about that, because the people that are deploying it, say Peace Corps volunteers and local language leaders, need to have a certain amount of training and sensitivity to all that variation to think about how to start to use the tool.
Yeah, and I agree. What we can do is we definitely need to try and talk to Sarah, and I think she's only there until June, July, end of July or something like that, but she has other people that are picking this up as well. So we definitely will talk to her about that, and that is something in our design that we definitely want to take in consideration and put that down as a huge future enhancement, so that, because you're right, because that was one of the things that she actually really wanted. There are certain dialects, I guess. Everyone has it. I mean, I was born in the Philippines, and there are so many different dialects. I think there's like 700 or something like that dialects of what they call the native, the official country language, which is Tagalog. But there's so many different other dialects of that as well. So. And she's only really concentrated in one area too. So we want to make sure that we are at least targeting what she wants in her area, and then we can spread that out and grow on that, though. But that's good to know. But that's interesting stuff. This is a pretty cool project. I think this is a pretty cool project to the language translation. So I'm really glad that you all are on board. So I appreciate it. Anna is not here. Anna, and this is the mix of the global team. Anna is actually living in Madrid, but she's pretty responsive as well. She just couldn't be here at this particular time because she's still doing some work. Sylvain is actually on the development team as well. He actually created Ruby on Rails Girls Paris, actually, right, Pamela? He actually created the Rails Girls Paris.
Yes, and I've actually met him in person before, independent of this. I was in Paris, and I volunteered with the Rails Girls Paris group because I love Rails Girls. So I got to meet him then, and then just fun happenstance, I guess, was when Rose sent out an email to the mentors, and I recognized his name, so that was fun.
Yeah, so I was like, small world. So him and Pamela are actually teaming up on the development side. So we have Ala and Eve both teaming up from linguistic side. And then Matthew is our main primary Peace Corps. Everything project manager, everything. So we work pretty close together too on a lot of different Peace Corps projects. So, and then Soumya, she couldn't join, and it is about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. So that was a sport for her, and you will find our students are very, very engaged. They really want to work hard to help contribute and learn in the process. So never worries about the time zone. We'll make it work. We have in the past, and it's just the culture of open source in our global community too. So any last minute questions, I would encourage you to look at the I just posted the initial requirements, and we're going to keep to that in the very, very beginning. But again, make sure that we are designing for future enhancements as well. And that's going to be on the technical, with the technical side as well. I'll have some follow-ups with this, and I'll follow up with a few action items because I definitely want to read the case study as well. I definitely want to get all of this information and post. Well, this is actually live, so everybody will have access to it. So, any questions? Any last-minute questions or?
Just on the Peace Corps side, I want to express thanks to everyone for working on this project and being so engaged and thoughtful and already going through it in so much detail and asking tough questions and poking holes in the entire concept and figuring out solutions at the same time. So we're very excited. I'm sure Sarah is, even though she can't join this part, and just also wanted to do a quick thanks to Rose for organizing this. Absolutely,
my pleasure. This is exciting stuff. So I appreciate everyone's time. I know. I like to always be conscious of that. So we'll get it going, and we'll get you connected with your student soon. So she tried to join, but we'll get her on board. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. Bye.
It was nice to meet everyone.
We'll do it again soon. I like this. I like the Hangout Air. So we'll do it again soon.
Great.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks for organizing us.
Yeah, thanks, Rose.
A lot.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.